welcome to Revelations Through Language, the channel where we look into the deeper meanings behind the phrase and words that we use today through the lens of faith. Come with me as we embark on a journey to discover the truth.
Hi all, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me again for another episode of Revelations Through Language. So today's episode hopefully is going to be a very interesting one. It's going to be around why nothing happens for a reason. And if nothing happens for a reason, then on the flip side, that means everything does happen for a reason. And I'm going to try to show you why I believe that and also why we shouldn't ignore the signs. We've all heard the phrase everything happens for a reason multiple times, and I firmly believe it, and I'm sure many others do, whether you're of faith or not. And I just meditated on things, on the realization that nothing happens by chance, but where does it come from, or what does it mean? So obviously being of faith, I believe it comes from God, but how to really get to the bottom of it, I wasn't sure. And then that's when one day I was praying or meditating and reading, then that's when the word came to me, and the word that came to me was coincidence. And so what I started to do from there was started to deconstruct the word and break it down and really dig deep to find out what it truly means. And in English, we've taken a lot of words from its original source and kind of changed it or misinterpreted it into how we use it now. So the word coincidence is just so the incidence is just incident, but with an S at the end. So we say incidents, and it's the same as an incident or multiple incidents. That's all it is. So the two words that are made out of coincidence anyway, it comes from the Latin coincidere, which means with together. So the co means with together, and then the incidence is the event or the occurrence of something happening. So for something to happen, there has to be an action which leads onto a chain of events, or what we call now, or what we say is consequences. So consequences is when we typically use consequences as well. We use it in a negative way, meaning bad things are going to happen. But looking at it objectively for what a consequence actually is once again, consequence is made out of two words. It's made out of the word con, which means with, and then same again, sequence or sequences means order or chain of events. So basically consequences and coincidence is exactly the same thing. So what sparks the chain of event or the consequences is the reason why we say everything happens for a reason. So the reason is the action. Otherwise, we would then say nothing happens for a reason because we wouldn't need to take action for things to happen. And then that would be luck. And English is such a funny language that when we say coincide, that means two things coming together. But when we say coincidence, we always use it meaning luck. And then that also led to an incident that made me realize why it's important to not ignore things. So I had a colleague come to me recently talking about how he's feeling and how he's thinking about things not happening by chance or by luck or by accident, and them happening because it's meant to happen, and it's things that he might have missed that were signals. So he came to me, and when he came to me, I showed him on my phone that I was looking at the word coincidence. And when I explained to him about coincide and then obviously coincidence, he looked at me baffled and he was amazed, thinking this is what he was thinking. And I just happened to be looking at that on his phone, and I said to him, does that look like luck? So we had a conversation and shared a few things, and then from there that developed some more thinking on me and meditating on what my colleague said as well. And obviously, so in English we use coincide meaning something's coming together, but we use coincidence meaning something happening by accident or by luck. And because we believe this thing, or when something happens, we believe that it's happened by luck or by accident. And an accident is something that's not meant to happen. So because when two things come together, we think, oh yeah, it's an accident, that it wasn't meant to happen. So because of that, we then ignore it and think, yep, it wasn't meant to happen, and ignore the signals. And how I thought about it in an analogy is it's actually very silly in hindsight when you think about it. Because if you were driving and following a car, if the car signaled to go left, you wouldn't think it's an accident. You would follow that signal and go where that car is signaling. And even the word sign itself, when you use signs as opposed to signal, it changes the picture completely. So one thing I'm trying to do a lot more and get it into my vocabulary is say signal instead of sign. Because if you say signal to someone, they will just automatically know that it's something to follow, rather than if you say signs, they think it's something mystical when it just means signal. So for me, as a man of God, I try not to ignore the signals. So signals are just indications because of God's will for us. And I'll just read a few Bible verses So Jeremiah 29:11, probably one of the most quoted Bible verses in Scripture. So it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." So, very quoted verse. And obviously, believing in God and trusting His will requires you not to ignore the signs. So, it gives you courage if you are brave enough to follow the Lord and see where the signals take you. And then Hebrews 10, verses 36, it reads, "You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised." And if we all reflect on our own lives and think back in hindsight to so many incidents that have happened, how many things that we've overlooked and thought it was an accident rather than a signal, and how did it turn up in the end? So for me personally, there's been numerous incidents that same when it happened, I thought nothing of it, and then it led to something that could have been avoided. So if we all reflect and look at incidents in our lives, it holds true for almost everyone. So that can't be an accident if it reflects and holds true for so many people. So ignoring certain signs, it takes courage to follow the signs, which is not an easy thing to do. But for all of us, imagine what our lives would be like if we didn't ignore the signals. So next time a coincidence happens, I dare you to not ignore the signals and see where it takes you. What have you got to lose?
Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. In the meantime, check out some of my other deep dives. Until the next one, God bless.